Hello there. A suspect known to police has ploughed his car into a crowd of pedestrians while he shouted the time-honoured AK phrase. Reports are coming out that a male driver allegedly steered his vehicle into pedestrians and cyclists this morning on the island of Île-d'Oléron off the Atlantic coast between Nantes and Bordeaux. 10 injured, 4 critically. And I wonder if the French police, unlike the Brit police, will be reticent about declaring it as a terrorism offence.
Well, Jeff, I mean, I did read here that in the Daily Telegraph, in the Daily Express, that eyewitnesses claimed the driver shouted, this is according to the Express, not me, that the driver shouted Allahu Akbar before driving into the people. However, this remains to be confirmed, and investigators are also exploring the possibility the driver was suffering from mental health issues. Now, I think this is very dangerous reporting by the Express here, Jeff. I mean, because saying that he was shouting out Allahu Akbar, I mean, I think that's highly, goodness gracious me, people will start thinking that there's commonality and linkage between the phrase Allahu Akbar and driving cars into people, which, thank goodness, we know there isn't. Yes, that's the first thing to say here. As for mental health issues, well, we do know that there are plenty of people with mental health issues who do shout things out before they commit awful crimes. It's not like, one of the main phrases they are shouting out is Allahu Akbar, because, of course, it isn't, is it, Jeff?
No. Anyway, Darren Grimes put out on Twitter earlier, or X, should I say, breaking: a man shouting that certain phrase has rammed pedestrians and cyclists on the French holiday island of Île-de-Doloron, leaving several injured and 2 in intensive care. There does seem to be a different story between how many are actually in intensive care. And he says, yet another isolated incident in Europe.
Absolutely. Yes, of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Look, we shouldn't, as I said, there's no linkage and commonality between that phrase and that phrase and committing acts of potential, well, we don't even know if it's terror. I mean, he could have been shouting it out. He might have had something wrong with him. He might not have been deliberately driving the car into those people, of course. That's the other thing to always remember, ladies and gentlemen. It might have been an accident. He might have sneezed. These things do happen. But in all seriousness, what the is going on in Europe, Jeff? What is going on? Why has it changed so much? Why?
Well, that's the big question. Why has it changed so much? Well, I can't for the life of me think why. It must be because of all those far-right people that are out there that are causing this somehow or other, just by existing or having an opinion. You see, what gets me, though, is that we sort of joke about this Allahu Akbar thing, that it's shouted and then things happen, or it's shouted and suddenly the guy who shouts it we find has got mental health issues. If something was happening, say the far right had a phrase, say the right had a phrase, just a simple phrase they used a lot, and people got upset by it, it would be banned, wouldn't it? That phrase itself, because it upsets people, will be banned. How many people who walk into a train station or into an airplane or an airport or in a busy street, hearing that phrase shouted out, will just go, oh, that's okay. That's just normal.
Jeff.
Or will they more likely be looking over their shoulder and running for the nearest bomb shelter?
Jeff, when you hear that shouted out, it's a precursor for ducking, usually. That's what happens. You hear that, you duck. And why is that? It's almost like it's become a programmed response. And I think that that's very wrong. We should, as soon as we hear that phrase, all of us, of course, we need to welcome it and say, oh, how delightful. How delightful. That's what we've been told that we have to do by our betters. So that's how that should be the natural response of any decent, good, patriotic Brit or European. What's happened in France? We're not making light of it. what we're doing is we're talking in a certain way that you can understand. And that's the truth of the matter. Jeff.
Yeah. I'll just play you the Sky News clip that came out just a while ago to update you on what the latest thinking was back then, which is pretty up to date with what we know.
Breaking developments to bring you regarding a situation in France. This is the island of Oloron, just south of La Rochelle. It's a tourist island, and we're hearing that a driver rammed a vehicle into pedestrians and cyclists, leaving 2 people in intensive care, according to the Interior Minister. The driver arrested by police, according to the Interior Minister. Around 9 people are thought to have been injured. That's according to the mayor of Oloron, talking to BFM TV. And in those comments to BFM TV, the suspect is said to be about 30 years old, and it's reported that the suspect shouted Allah Akbar when arrested. Le Parisien newspaper reported the same details, adding that investigators were looking into the possibility of possible mental disturbances regarding the suspect. We understand from French media that France's anti-terrorism prosecutor's office isn't in charge of the inquiry at this stage, but they have not directly commented for their own part. Like I say, these are details being brought to us by French media, including La Parisienne and BFM TV, reports that the suspect...
Well, Jeff, sorry, you want to move to there, Jeff? The one thing which I would think we need to really consider here is that possibly Allahu Akbar was not what was being shouted. Maybe I've been thinking about this and I've been putting a lot of thought into it. Maybe there's something that happens with people who have mental health issues, and there's almost like a sort of Tourette's kind of thing that comes out of the mouth, and it sounds like Allahu Akbar, but it isn't. That's what I'm trying to take this to its logical conclusion, because otherwise people will start thinking that phrase is synonymous with certain types of attacks, which might have been programmed into us by the far right.
Yeah, it's either synonymous with acts like of terror or acts like that resemble terrorism, or it's someone shouts it is mentally ill, and if the people who use that phrase a lot want that not to happen, then they have got to somehow within their culture is to rectify that. The ball is in their court, not ours.
Not necessarily.
The ball is in their court.
Not necessarily, Jeff. I mean, what we could be looking at is a conspiracy here, and you might have these attacks taking place by members of the far right, and they are shouting this out deliberately to taint the reputation and the good name of a different demographic. And I think we cannot remove that as a possibility. It definitely is one, Jeff. It couldn't otherwise. Yes. No.
Yes.
No.
Well,
no.
it's it gets shouted quite a lot, doesn't it? And it's a phrase that gets shouted a lot. And as I said, if it was a phrase that, say, a group of right-wing people in Britain used before they did something nasty, that phrase would now be verboten. It would be outlawed. It would be illegal. So, yeah, there's a thought for you, isn't there?
Yes, Jeff. Well, I mean, awful situation in France. We are seeing this taking place right across Europe now. This is becoming the norm for some reason, and I don't know why. It never used to be like this, Jeff. Tell me what has changed, Jeff. What has changed? What has changed in Europe for all these hideous attacks? There'll be. I mean, we don't know who has been hurt in this attack. It could have been children, women and children. We don't know. We pray that is not the case, because we have seen this happen before. And at some point, if all those racist far-right people out there, if they start seeing this on a daily basis, maybe one day they'll think, oh, well, nobody's protecting us. We'll have to protect ourselves. And that will be a terrible day, Jeff. A terrible day.
Yeah.
A terrible day. And it's not something that we on the Jeff Taylor channel endorse in any way, shape or form, of course. So, yeah.
Of course. And on that note, I shall say our thoughts and prayers go to those affected, which is the usual response. And we're saying it far too often these days, aren't we?
Yes.
And on that note, I shall just say it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him, from Mr. Jeff Taylor. Goodbye.